listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Another fantastic episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian,
and Keith Cheatham. Oh, we're back, guys, for another fun-filled week here on the Red Moon Podcast. I'm gonna
full
dive.
fun?
Oh, always.
Fun
Come
with,
on, Keith.
Fun with friends?
Do you doubt me?
Friends and fun and movies?
Movies? Movies? Oh, I'm gonna jump right in because Keith, you said something at dinner time tonight that
at dinner time.
We it's like we're a family, guys.
It's a little bold.
We get around the table and we just have dinner, chili and cornbread.
Yeah, homemade pumpkin pie. Homemade cornbread.
Dude, I'm
made
telling
by
you,
Sean here.
That cornbread was good.
The chili was good.
The chili was good.
Pumpkin pie.
I'm telling you, Brian's wife, Krista, just spoiling us yet again.
And we had some smokes. Man.
I'm telling you, it was a good way to start this show.
It was good.
If we could just set up cameras and do that.
I'm ready for a nap now. I'm going to lean back here and take a snooze.
Are y'all done with the show?
Snooze?
Y'all just want to go snooze?
Snooze?
Y'all want to take a nap?
Well, Here's the thing. I think we have a really good show lined up.
I think we do too.
It's possible.
And it's like, while I would love to snooze, I think there's a lot of stuff that we need to talk about.
Yeah, like Kevin Feige being the next Walt Disney.
It was a
what?
bold,
I'm telling
bold
you,
statement.
bold
he has the potential.
Potential.
That's all, folks.
Way of the future.
Potential
Way of the
future to be the next Walt Disney. It depends. He definitely has that. I think that that thread Walt Disney had onto like what people will enjoy.
Yes.
This all stems from the fact that Sean sent us an article this morning stating that Disney's now letting Kevin Feige take a crack at Star Wars.
Yeah.
He's still the head of Marvel Studios. He's still going to be overseeing all that, but now he's also going to be producing a Star Wars film.
But can you overload one's plate to
I
the
don't
point
know.
where maybe their creativity or their...
We'll see.
I mean, okay, that was my biggest question.
If he fails, he's not the next Walt Disney. It's his test.
That's true.
Boom.
It's his test.
No, that's definitely true, but that's kind
He
of
could either be the next Walt or he could be the next George.
Very
true.
good point.
That's true.
And then they just sell Disney to Apple. So I will say my biggest point of contention in that claim, or like you said, it was potential.
Yeah.
That's the key word. There's potential. But to me, it's still like,
You gotta have that innovation.
well, I was gonna say you even said it yourself. Innovation is the key, and the fact is Walt Disney revolutionized the film industry from just being about picture and sound from normal everyday life to now cartoons, and kind of making cartoons something to take seriously and usher in. He himself was a great artist, but even as Brad, our good buddy who enjoyed dinner with us too, he pointed out the fact that he was like, look, it also takes the skill of gathering others around and being able to delegate to them and share your vision enough that they
that's a skill I do believe Feige has.
True,
I do
absolutely. I think that's no doubt apparent through Marvel.
But it depends on what else he does. Because, I mean, Walt started with animation, but then he branched and created this huge empire. So, really, it depends on where Feige goes and what he dips his toes into. But, I mean, I do think, so far that he does have a level head as far as so many executives are focusing on, what's going to make us the most money? I feel like that's Sony's biggest problem for so many years, and why they got Spider-Man wrong was they were thinking, what'll give us the profit, not what will fans like. And I think Kevin Feige understands that the profit comes when you make something that fans want.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we've talked about before how, like, when we... when the filmmakers cater too much to the fans, that sometimes that can take away from the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think in Marvel's case, and with him at the helm, it seems like that's the kind of thing that fans, if you do give them what they want, then everything turns out the way it's supposed to anyway, because you're following along with the the truth behind these characters and the storylines.
But at the same time, I do think Kevin Feige also he does make what he wants to make. And
Oh,
like,
He takes liberties.
He definitely he makes things for the fans. But I think, like you're saying, he doesn't also like, well, fans want this, because there are, I think, decisions that have been made in the MCU that obviously showcase that's not always the case. I think
and sometimes
Captain Marvel's
sometimes comic book stories just don't fit with film.
Yeah,
too.
I mean,
so
there's
he's
only
got to
certain
be able
things
to
you can
do that. But
well, and that's the
they've
other
done that
thing
so
too.
well.
Is you think about his molding of the comic book universe, but that's also from previous material from visionaries like Stan Lee and other people who've created this other universe just before he put it on film. So again, that's also another page of Walt Disney's book that he doesn't have.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah,
Walt
absolutely.
Disney's like envisioning Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty and all of these Pinocchio. It's like he's envisioning all of these things. And it's not just him. Don't get me wrong. He's got a team of people behind him.
Absolutely,
But he is obviously the force which says, like, no, these are the things that we bring to the forefront that have never been seen by the world.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing about with Kevin Feige is I'm like, he's done a fantastic job.
I do think he has a little bit of that. Bob Iger recently released a autobiography about his tenure at Disney, and he in the book he had stated that back when they first bought Marvel and Marvel Studios was still an entity under Marvel, the comics company, because now Marvel Studios is separate from Marvel Comics, and Kevin Feige answers directly to Bob Iger, whereas before he answered to Ron Perlmutter, which is the CEO and head of Marvel Comics. And Bob Iger said the reason they made that split was Marvel and Ron Perlmutter were completely dead set on not making movies about like Black Panther, Captain Marvel, some of these other characters, because they felt they wouldn't sell well. He said, overseas Black Panther wouldn't sell well. Like he said, it might sell in America, but over foreign markets won't watch a movie led by an all African American cast.
Right.
And
because they're all racist.
Yeah, and Kevin Feige.
That's true.
Yeah, Kevin Feige was very much a proponent of I know if we make it and we make it right, it'll sell. And Bob Iger was like, I'm going with Feige on this one.
I would say going back to
Turned
what
out
you
to be
talked
$1 billion
about.
movie. So.
Well, and when you tune into actually making what the fans want to see and being, it really comes back to still just paying a respect to what's already been laid ahead, before them, and that's the thing about the comic book, scene is there's still this material that you have to pay homage to for the fans, but also reinvent the wheel a little bit to make sure it is there for new audiences.
I do think either way, it's interesting that they're bringing Feige in to produce a Star Wars movie because as of right now, Kathleen Kennedy is supposed to be kind of the Kevin Feige of Star Wars. And
they're
it's
teaming up for
well,
Star Wars.
Yeah,
they
are they
are,
teaming
they are.
up or should she be worried?
Because it's like
saying,
she's supposed to be the Kevin Feige of Lucasfilm, but so far
we've seen where the galaxy has gone far, far away.
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll find out if it can come back here in a couple of months.
Yeah, we will.
I can't wait. I'm excited.
That'll be a
while
big
we're talking
show.
about space and galaxies far, far away,
Indeed.
Could that
we
be the
should,
sound of a segue?
we should segue into our review this week.
I think we
'Cause
should.
There's people in our chat group right now that are pretty anxious to have this discussion. So
I bet we have a great review of a movie that is definitely split, and I mean we're gonna get into all of that. So here's our review of Ad Astra. Are we alone? And what does it mean to be alone? If there's something people fear as much as, and maybe sometimes even more than death, it's loneliness. Maybe this is why we first look to the stars to begin with. Never satisfied with what we have, we just immediately look to see if there's anything else. Are we alone? Good stories can make us take a deeper look at ourselves, others, and the things around us every day. Good science fiction gets to do this in space. Directed by James Gray, who co-wrote the film with Ethan Gross, Ad Astra tells the story of Major Roy McBride, played by Brad Pitt. Or more rather, Roy narrates the story as the film follows him on his isolated journey through space to find his father, renowned scientist Clifford McBride, played by Tommy Lee Jones. Clifford has been missing and presumed dead for 16 years, having gone on a mission to Neptune in order to send a signal out to the rest of the universe in an attempt to discover life in other galaxies. When a surge from Neptune nearly knocks out all of Earth's power and technology, it is revealed to Roy that his father may still be alive, and that he is believed to be responsible for the surge. Roy is sent on a mission to make contact with his father in order to stop any further threats to the Earth. But Roy hasn't been told the truth, and what Roy learns about his father will help him discover something about himself. Ad Astra clocks in right around the 2-hour mark, and you feel every minute of it. But yet, I was never bored or uninterested in what was happening. It's not an action-packed film, and is truthfully nothing like what I expected after seeing the trailers. It is, in fact, better. Throughout the film, Roy must undergo psychological evaluations to determine if he is stable enough to continue on his mission. Throughout each of these moments, and the movie itself, Roy gives us insight into his inner thoughts, which highlights his relationship with his father and ex-girlfriend, and his overall view of humanity and life. The film is definitely not for everyone. It's a strict science fiction tale that adheres as much as possible to realism as opposed to science fantasy films with action sequences. While it's not as deep or mind-numbing as a film such as Interstellar, Ad Astra's themes are still universal, dealing with isolation, God and faith, and most importantly, our relationship with each other as human beings. For many, it may be a slog to get through, and with such a simple, straightforward story with minor obstacles thrown at Roy as he goes from point A to point B, many will not be amused with such a thin story. To me, however, the simple plot drove the themes for the film home in a way a fantasy-style film would not. It's a lonely film, but ends on a hopeful note that truly says a lot without having to say much at all. I give Ad Astra 3 out of 4 stars.
Well, I can honestly tell you, Neil, one of our good buddies in Boston, we always bring him up on the show.
Yeah, good buddy.
I hated the film. I absolutely thought it was atrocious. I agreed with him and the review he sent us online. And I'm completely lying because I've not seen the film. So I'm sorry, Neil, to disappoint that I don't have any thoughts on this matter. So I will turn it to Mr. Keith and Mr. Sean because they both agree.
I was going to say those with microchip
like
brains
this.
like Brandon's.
Microchip,
Yeah.
Back to the old Arrival argument. Yeah, Chip would
get
love
it.
Chip
So
would get it.
go ahead and I don't know. Well, hold on. Neil sent us.
He sent us a short email that is the exact opposite of my review. But we'll go ahead and read that. It's great how the very first line just says, "Still wondering what the movie was about." 1 star. He says, "I went into the theater not really knowing what this movie is about, and spending 2 hours watching it didn't clarify anything. What happened? A surge has hit the Earth. Something about antimatter. Pitt goes to Mars to send a message to Neptune because they can't do that from Earth because surge. Pitt battles. Pitt battles space monkeys on the way to Mars. Pitt isn't allowed on ship to Neptune, swims through lake in spacesuit, hijacks ship while it's launching, kills all crew in the process. Pitt clearly starts to lose his mind.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Lots of spoilers.
Spoiler alerts, yeah. Pitt clearly starts to lose his mind, but is just fine by the time he gets to Neptune. Gets to Neptune, has weird emotionless conversation with his father. Father flies away. Pitt jumps from ship to ship using piece of first ship as shield to survive going through the dust belt on Neptune. Uses nuclear blasts as propulsion to get back to Earth. Gets to Earth so he can have coffee with his ex.
That's my favorite part.
Yes.
I love his email.
I know that
Fantastic.
oversimplifying this stuff makes it sound even dumber, but this movie just wasn't good. 90% of it is Brad Pitt talking to himself, Brad Pitt getting psychoanalyzed by a computer, or close-ups of Brad Pitt showing little to no emotion. The 3 people he interacts with the most, Colonel Pruitt, Lady on Mars, and his dad, are pointless and don't add anything. I feel like I missed the point of the movie, but if I wasn't able to get it in 2 hours, then that's a sure sign of a bad one. Really wish I was there to talk about this with you all. So that was Neil's opinion.
Well, you can talk about it, as everybody can talk about this film.
By emailing
us like Neil did. RMPodcast at RedMoonProductions.com.
Leave a comment in our comment section.
Simple.
We can
That
read
too.
them. They were good. They are legitimate points.
Yeah.
They're just all
Yeah.
wrong.
No.
man.
And before we start, seriously though, like my dad saw this film, my father-in-law saw this film, my brother-in-law saw it. None of them liked it. It seems like Keith and I, out of everybody that I know that's seen it, we're the only two that really
like it.
This
that
is
really
sad,
dug it.
guys.
So,
You know what this means,
it is
though.
a split. It is a
Well,
split
this
audience.
means we're becoming
so-
the critics.
I know. The critics.
Do we
score
really want? I always
Ouch.
championed us that
Sometimes
we
it's
were the
okay.
critics who were
Say
on
that
the
so loud. I
fan
know.
side.
Um,
I mean, come
On
on.
Rotten Tomatoes, critic scores a 93%,
Yeah.
audience scores 43%. So
Yeah.
average audiences, but it does not surprise me. I came out of the movie thinking average audiences are probably not going to like this movie.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But
So
I
then,
did
okay,
enjoy
with,
it.
with our little peon minds of the average audience,
Yeah.
what would we
Because
like
we're
about
far
it, or why would we not
superior.
like it?
It is a very slow movie.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it can, and we both agreed that this movie was marketed completely wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like all of the trailers, and Neil pointed out to me that he never saw a trailer for it, but I feel like all of the trailers and all the marketing for this film made it into this like space epic thriller that it was not. It was never that movie. They showed all the action sequences of the film in the trailer. And the rest of the movie, the other 2 hours of it, is inner monologue and psych evaluations and
exposition
and great acting. I know Neil said like this emotionless, but that was the acting.
Yeah,
and
I personally, because he was a broken person, and I thought like a lot of
both him and his father were both broken.
The way they came across and interacted with one another, I thought was exactly how they would have and should have. And for me, what drove it home for me, like, because I was on the fence throughout a lot of the movie because it was slow and it is mainly just Brad Pitt isolated talking to himself or the psychological computer. But those things I felt are like what kind of made the film. And then the interaction with his dad at the end is what locked everything into place for me.
Yeah.
Like, I was watching it, and I was like, this is not bad, but it's not great either. And then when you get to him and his father and the realization Brad Pitt kind of gains after talking to his father, like, Brad Pitt kind of, like, Sean said it best when we were coming out of the theater. It's like Brad Pitt's father went out into space and lost himself. Brad Pitt goes out there and finds himself, and they all kind of locks into place there.
Yeah, you can quote me on that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was a good line.
Actually, I'm not gonna lie. Like that kind of sells it for me more
Yeah.
than the trailer did.
Yeah.
When I saw it,
And it's very simple. The only plot is him fighting his father. There really isn't
Yes.
much to it. But it's the themes behind it, I felt like, as far as that. I guess, I mean, to really get into it, I guess we're going to have to get kind of spoiler alert heavy.
I wrote some things down, and I'll let me read them, and then you
go
can
ahead.
tell me if you agree or disagree.
now are these directly to counter Neil, or
No,
are they just kind of
These
your
are just
own
the
thoughts?
three. Like Neil kind of pointed out, I never understood what this movie was about. What was the point? These are the three things that I took away from the film. So
Gotcha.
I had to kind of write them down because they were dense thoughts that I was having on it. But I thought about all of this on my way home from the theater. But the first theme that I found was that religion and science do not cancel one another out. All through the film, you see the astronauts and the military personnel praying or asking the saints for protection and endurance. I thought it was kind of interesting that the near future, in quotes, humans seem to have more of a faith in God or higher power than we do today, that stood out to me because Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, they prayed, but I don't feel like many of the modern day astronauts are mostly atheists, and I don't feel like that's even on their radar. The second thing was the psych evaluations that are constantly being done on all of the astronauts proves that we were never made to be among the stars. Our minds simply cannot handle the emotional stress and isolation of space, and I have a feeling so small and so far from our home. It was so necessary for the right people to be chosen to complete these tasks because of their emotionless demeanor. But even Brad Pitt and his father, two men who seem absolutely withdrawn from the rest of humanity, seem to break down under the stress of space. So we're just not meant to be there. The last thing I took away was that maybe life on Earth is all there is, and we should be okay with that. Our obsession with finding something else out there or even leaving this place someday is so unhealthy that it could lead us down the path of forgetting how lucky or blessed we are to have this planet. It's our human nature to be unsatisfied, and this movie shows the unsatisfaction of mankind with our own world. The last thing I'll read was I read a couple of different articles about the film.
Yeah.
And this was from a guy that wrote an article in The Vulture, but I had to copy and paste it because it's pretty awesome. He says the ending to Ad Astra. The ending to Ad Astra is that we've been looking into the wrong direction. Maybe it's inherently irresponsible for us to search the stars for something to save us, or to give us meaning, ignoring what's actually happening to humanity in the meantime. That's terrifying and much less fun to imagine that Vulcans giving us space travel technology or the CIA housing aliens in the soon-to-be stormed Area 51, but it's also a wake-up call. If we're truly alone, that means human life is more precious than we could ever imagine.
Absolutely.
That Earth is, in its perfectly habitable orbit around the sun, is the most special planet in the universe, and that we won't be anyone or anything left to pick up the pieces if we destroy ourselves. And Ad Astra, our last hope to end the wars and suffering and contamination of the planet is our only hope. To think any less would be the universe's biggest mistake.
Yeah,
I thought that was
I thought
that was amazing
that is
writing right there.
brilliant.
But that's kind of what I took from the film. So
No, I agree completely, 100. Especially with everything you read at the end there. Who'd you say was?
it was it's an article from the Vulture.
I agree with that 100%. That's actually when watching the movie, the interactions. The interactions he has with his father, and then when they finally leaving, and he's talking about his father, and the thing that hit me hardest, that sold everything you just read to me, was in the film. He's talking about, his father went on this mission and was gone for 16 years, and he said, my father went past all these planets and was searching for life, and all he could see was what wasn't there, that he never noticed. He didn't think about what was back home that was there, and that's what sold it to me, was that line where I was like, dang, that's
there was
deep.
There was a line too where him and his father are face to face.
Oh yeah,
literally, and the father's like had just told him like when I was gone, I didn't think of you or your mother at all.
Not once.
Like all out. Yeah, I mean it's a really
only
horrible,
the only thing he thought about, the only thing he cared about, to the detriment of society and the crew that he was with. Yep. He didn't care who died or what, as long as he found life on another planet. There had to be life out there, and him failing that mission, he could not live with. It's
but
like
he
has
actually
to be.
says like I failed, and then Brad Pitt, the only scene that really gets emotional is Brad Pitt tells him, "No, you didn't fail," and
now we know.
And now we know that there's nothing else out there.
Well,
but then he says,
I mean, it's like we need to be more worried about what's here.
Isn't that what he says, or something? He says like.
He said maybe
we're
all we need.
Have.
Yeah, he said we're all we have, and maybe that's all we need is like each other.
Yeah.
And I love that, because the whole movie is about Brad Pitt being kind of isolated, in the fact that he hates society, he hates people. His self-isolation drove his girlfriend away. It's like he's just this person that he was like, we do need to find what's out there, just kind of like his father, because we as a society suck. We're destroying everything. We're using up our resources. We're killing each other for our resources.
Now here's the thing. I will say this, because what you all just described sounds brilliant. And honestly, any movie that can make me feel as if, because I honestly just even like that Vulture article, having a movie convey the message of, why are we so worried about getting away from what is already here that we should be?
Right.
I mean, it's the same thing that the argument we've had with technology and all the smartphones. And it's like the jabs that we've had in movies where it's just like everybody's walking around looking at their phone when they should be looking up, conversing with the person right next to them. And so to me, it's the same. Instead of on a smaller scale, it's on a much grander scale regarding space and that same argument. But to kind of give Neil some credence, and a lot of, I guess, a majority of the audiences that are walking away, with it being such a slow-paced movie, or with it being so, I guess, grand in its scope, are there parts of the plot or parts of the story and the pacing that could have been done better to match that? Or does it have to be at the slow pace and it have the slow story segments in order for it to sink in the way that it did for
I wouldn't have liked it if it had fast. I liked that it had a slow pace. I don't think I personally would have liked it if it had been a little bit more, because I felt like that slow pace.
That's what
made it sink in.
That's what made this. I mean, this kind of film was never meant. Like I said, it wasn't meant to be an action movie. It's a 2001 Space Odyssey kind of movie.
Yeah.
It's so funny
slow.
you said that. That was exactly what I told Keith when I saw the
Neil
trailer.
Says,
that's what I thought.
He didn't care about the acting. I didn't care that it was slow. I just cared that the story was nonsense.
Yeah, I think for Neil, I think
that's a little brutal, but because I found a hell of a lot of sense out of the story.
Yeah, I didn't find the story to be nonsense either. Yeah, Neil said he never had a problem with it being slow. I guess he found the story unbelievable. But to me, that's what I liked about it, is I thought everything was very realistic.
There's maybe 2 scenes in the movie that I thought were just kind of really far-fetched,
like
every other space movie. But when he pulls a piece of the ship off and goes
uses
through
it to
an
go
asteroid
through the dust belt,
I'm kind of like, that's probably
hell. We've seen Gravity.
Yeah.
Okay, she freaking
Gravity.
blows herself back to Earth with a damn fire extinguisher.
Of course, NASA's already come out and talked about how real the things that were real.
But they do with every space movie. Yeah.
But that wasn't the point. The point of it was not to be the most realistic space movie you've ever seen. But it was. I mean, really, one of the articles that I read about it said it's not really even a sci-fi movie. It is just. It takes place in space.
It's very grounded.
It's
There's
all
not
about
a lot.
Us.
I think Neil's has problems with some of it, but I there wasn't a lot in it. I felt personally like I know he mentions the monkeys in space, but I mean they were on a ship.
Let's describe that though, because people hear that
because
and
people
like,
it sounds goofy, but it's not like they're just flying around in space attacking people. There was a Norwegian ship that had a Mayday signal. They get on the ship, and the test monkeys that were in the lab, whatever had happened, they had gotten free. These people had been floating out there for who knows how long before they got discovered. So these monkeys who had gotten free were eating the dead carcasses of the astronauts. And yes, they had gone mad and rabid at that point, so they attacked Brad Pitt and his crew when they got on the ship. But I didn't find that to be. I was like, well, they do.
Well, that's the thing
shoot
too,
monkeys up into space.
Oh
to
yeah,
test on
the
them,
first thing in space was an animal.
Yeah,
the first
so
life thing. So
I didn't find that to be, like, in my opinion, nonsense. But I can see how some people might be like, well, that was just kind of weird, because you're not expecting when he opens the hatch for there to be a baboon.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I mean, and it was a very eerie and creepy scene
Yeah.
too, because you don't see it. You just see the guy, his body like twitching and stuff, and then the baboon like peeks around and looks because he's eating the dude's face off.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like one of the things that goes along with my second point about the losing your mind in space was they made the Mayday call because these baboons were killing everybody. That's why there was a Mayday call. Mm-hmm. So that shows you that the primates, they went nuts first.
Yeah.
But they couldn't handle the being out in space,
right?
And they lost it first.
I mean, again, that message that it's uncharted territory, but maybe for a reason.
Yes,
it is like you're trying to find the end of the earth, but maybe you have,
because
we weren't meant to be there.
This being set in the future, and like I said, they do have like a base on the moon, and like they do talk about like it's kind of like the new Wild West, because now that there's like kind of colonies on the moon and Mars, you have people fighting over the resources on those planets.
Pirates.
And and it's like, it sounds silly to say, but it's, in my opinion, I thought it was real, because it's like, if we started putting colonies on other planets, and there are no, because they mentioned when they go to the moon, it's like, are you planning on going outside of the safe zone? Because there are no borders on the moon. There is no, like, there aren't nations with borders.
Yep.
If you step outside of like this space zone, there's people
a free-for-all,
that come attack, kill you, try to steal your resources. It's like, it makes sense that we would, just like on Earth.
Well, I was going to say, you would resort to those primal behaviors
Yeah.
if your resources are scarce and you got to survive. I mean, that's what you come down to, survival of the
fittest.
fittest.
So I thought it handled things in a way that I was like, I could realistically see that happening, in the future, if that's how, like, we progressed.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, there we have it. You all are siding with the critical masses, and yet...
Shut up.
Well, yeah, I know. It's not. It's rare. It's rare that this is
rare.
the case, because I'm honestly, it's funny because at the last movie that there was kind of a division on between you two was a movie that I was wanting to go see because of that division. Mm-hmm. But really, I think this one, because of that stark difference between the critics and the film goers.
Yeah,
it's like. Actually, now, and especially with our good buddy Neil, really being on the fence and saying, no, I don't like this at all.
Neil didn't like it at all.
I'm really wanting to go see this just because I want to see if I fare with
us or
but
with,
it's
with
really
everyone
hard.
else.
Yeah, but it's really hard because based on all the points you all made, it's like if I get any bit of that out of it,
it's hard to
I almost have a feeling I'm going to end up liking.
That I've read they all point out very similar points that we've kind of made, and even go a bit further.
I have not read a single review for this film yet, so like a lot of stuff
I have.
That's what I'm saying, but
they're not bad.
We're saying the same things as some of these reviews.
Yeah,
so
a lot of the people kind of caught some of the same, and even some people said these are the themes that we saw, that it makes it a good film, but we don't even agree with them, because one of the things that a lot of people are kind of pissed about is the fact that they make the case that there's nothing else out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's not something that's not something that the human mind can really.
No. See, and what I love is it's something that we've not seen in relatively, I think, our generation's version of science.
Oh no.
And it's like
science is there has to be something out there.
And that's what I love about this approach is it's like, but what if there wasn't?
That's right.
And this is the first film in a long time that we've seen out of the last decade at least with space films where they've approached it from I mean, hell, even since Star Trek back in the 50s. And it's like you actually have this approach that's unique of saying, but what if there isn't?
Yeah.
Now that's the unique approach, is to say, if there is nothing out there, then what if this is all we have left?
Then we need to,
and maybe this is the film that presents that theory of saying, why aren't we taking more care and consideration for those who live right next to us than trying to escape this place to find life that we don't even we don't know exists, let alone we know that our neighbor does.
Rather than trying to make our own planet a better place, we're looking for some savior out in the stars to just come and give us the magical technology to make things a utopia. And it's like
either that or just trying to, we're even just for curious reasons.
Yeah.
It's like, but who cares? It's like if you go on that journey that Tommy Lee Jones took, where it's like that's your only purpose is to find something that is out there that exists, and that's your only purpose. It's like, then what about the life of existence that you completely left behind?
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point.
He leaves his wife and son behind.
He leaves his wife and son behind, doesn't see them for 16 years, and then when he finally comes in contact with his son again, he's like, I haven't thought about you all once. Like, the only thing I've cared about
thought
is
about the
finding,
mission.
So,
Which
I mean,
is that's kind of wow. I don't know. It intrigues me more, but that was the first thing I thought of when you read that Vulture article and all of your points.
Yeah.
My first thought was, this is the first movie to take that approach.
Yeah.
The sci-fi element is that, okay, nothing is existent out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, instead of having this whole like, you know, a foreign being, an alien coming to actually come in contact with us, and I think that's pretty creative.
Yeah, and they could have went
That's
a lot
creative
of they
bent.
could have went a lot of different directions with that theme because one of the things I was waiting for that never happened, and I'm glad it never happened, was the freaking like climate change crap. I was really waiting for them to say like, well, this is our only planet and this is the only place that there's life, so we better start making paper straws and change the world. And it never happened. It was just about the relationships of in humanity. It was about helping one another and relating to one another. And it wasn't just about like, we've got to, you know, kill all the cows. And
it didn't feel like they were telling the story to have like a
there was not this
or
political agenda thing behind it. It was just simply like, maybe you should try noticing what we have here instead of being obsessed with something that may not ever be.
Yes.
And that's we could all use a little bit of that, not even just in space travel, but in our own lives. Like we seek after dreams that are probably never going to happen.
Yeah.
So
like
why don't we?
My dreams always happen.
Yeah.
Just love what we have. You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you. I'm with you,
I'm
man.
with you.
I'm with you, bro.
All right.
All right.
Moving on.
3 out of 4 stars for Astra. Get out there, review it, email us, and tell us that you hate it. Be a part of that other movie-going community.
Well, we did not convert Neil.
He is not.
What did he say?
He said, I feel like I can usually grasp the critical review and get there, but not in this case. Even after hearing your all's views, too, I was looking forward to this movie because I didn't know anything about it, so I could sit back and just take in whatever it is they had to show. But even with an open mind, I just couldn't buy into the story, so all deeper messages were beyond me.
I got to be honest. I truthfully am. I'm psyched to go see this because he is staunchly
Dennis gives it 2 out of 4 stars. By the way.
2. Okay.
Oh,
all right.
yeah.
2
That's
out
higher
of 4.
than Neil, but yeah.
But I am looking more forward to the you know, being decisive and coming down on one side or the other and giving you my thoughts.
Well, if you ever see it.
Yeah. If you ever go to the movie.
Again, that's always in question.
We go on $5 Tuesdays too, hoping you'll go.
Yeah,
and you never do.
Maybe now that you fixed my toilet, Sean.
You owe me.
You saved a little bit of money. You can buy a ticket now.
I know. All right, guys, are y'all ready to move on to some headlines?
Yes,
absolutely.
We got some doozies this week.
You got good stuff.
Some big ones.
All
Actually, some big ones. We got some big ones.
Big
All right.
old tires.
Our first one on the block.
Jenny.
Jenny.
We
Jenny
always
on
do
the
that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I need like a little J-Lo plug in.
No.
Wow.
Okay.
J-Law.
I just want to say I caught Sean drinking from his cup, but it wasn't a Red Moon cup.
Oh my goodness.
red.
But it is red. I was
red.
gonna
So
say.
at least he has a red cup, but you got Samuel Adams over there. You didn't even use the
I
moon
know,
cup.
I didn't.
So good.
You got that water bottle. All right.
Has it got red on it?
yeah, it's got
It's
red
got
on
red
it.
Our
on it.
headlines this week. That's true. It does have red on it. I'll give you that.
Well, Sam Adams has a
Our
little bit
first
red on
one happens to be about this controversial film that we're going to be reviewing. Well, not next week, but the week after, because we're going to see it next week.
Yes.
Yep.
It does release next week,
it. That's right.
and that is Joker. So, of course, the word around the street is that it's a very controversial film
It's controversial.
because of the psychoanalysis.
it's going to incite violence.
Yeah.
We're gonna
That's precisely what
We're
it
going
is.
to have more shootings.
The film's not
Shootings.
controversial. People make it
Yes.
Boom.
controversial.
And that is the question at hand. The director even came out stating in an interview that outrage is a commodity
I
these
agree.
days.
Nice.
So I wanted to ask that question of you all. Do you believe outrage is a commodity?
Conflict sells, man. I
It
mean,
does.
if you can create this idea that this is bad and this is going to cause problems, the media has something to talk about for a couple weeks.
And it's
I
kind of
mean,
crazy, but it used to be sex sells.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm not saying
Yeah.
it doesn't still sell, but I'm just saying that used to be the
sex
the
sells,
one
but
thing. Like
not anymore.
I don't feel like I think now it is. It's tragedy.
Yeah.
And all of these in the wake of mass shootings and all of this kind of stuff. A few bad apples ruining it for the rest of the batch. You have cancel culture.
Well,
Ooh,
they
bringing
I like
into-
that.
into
I like that
action.
term.
they
cancel culture.
use the shooting in Colorado with the screening of Dark Knight as a kind of they're like,
Well,
look, back then
yeah.
there's this nut job who wanted to be like the Joker, shot up a theater, and it's like it's going to happen again now. And
Well,
it's
to
like,
be fair, it was the victims' families that came forward with a letter to WB to say.
well, I saw it way before they stepped forward. There were people saying this before.
Well,
the
no. But
Colorado
I'm saying,
families.
I'm saying like the reason they did step forward to at least write WB was to say, hey, we are in agreement that we do not want this film to partake in giving other people ideas about
They never
having
their thing was they wanted part of the money to go towards funding, like anti-gun.
well,
yeah,
I'm fine with that.
yeah. They said, well, not exactly, because
No.
their thing was they were okay with the movie airing, but they thought some of the proceeds should go to like anti-gun legislation and
No, I know because I
against the
saw
NRA.
WB's response, and of course they played right into that.
yeah.
And WB's response was the fact that they were like, we don't want to see anything. We're not, of course, promoting any form of violence. We just depict what we think is a good story. We don't in any way glorify what's going on the screen or call Joker a hero. And we are all for, yes, providing money and giving efforts and benefits to the anti-gun
I would say
legislation.
one of the things that I read online that nobody wants to talk about because it's always about the guns, but they said the thing that they thought more than anything else, like all these people panicking over the fact that this could incite, people to, was the fact that this movie showcases, the severity of
Mental illness.
Mental illness.
That's the
And
whole point of
and
this.
they're like, and the fact that people are still ignoring that as saying, well, this could cause copycats. It's like, no, you should say a healthy person would watch this movie and be fine. So what is it about mental illness that we need to address?
Yeah.
So that if a mentally ill person got ideas, because there's a difference, and it's not that these people are just like, I think the Joker's cool, I'm going to go shoot up a bunch of people. It's mentally ill people that think,
well, and even beyond that, look, it's still, and it's funny because it's like I'm not in agreement with their efforts of saying, oh yeah, this is how. I mean, all Warner Brothers was doing there was a PR stunt.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Basically just saying, yeah, we'll appease your efforts and say, yeah, we'll put some money towards whatever coffers you want to fill to make it seem like we're actually doing something. When really what it is it's like, no, I agree with the director and Joaquin Phoenix, who's come out, and many of the cast who's come out.
He walked
and
off an
support.
interview that
They asked
he
him.
got into it.
Yeah.
And he walked out. Yeah.
But what I love about it is that they're upholding the idea that look, art is art, or movies are movies, games are games.
That's what I was getting ready
Books
to say.
are
Same
books.
thing with the freaking video game.
And that's what pisses me off is anytime you have a scapegoat that is not the real issue.
Yep.
Is when you have this problem within our own culture of like, yes, outrage is a commodity because people don't want to focus on what the real problem is. And it's the same thing with any kind of social politics. It's like, what's going to keep me getting elected? Not to actually solve the problem, but to continue to say this is the problem and then make sure nothing's done about it so I can continue to practice and not preach it, or preach it and not practice it.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's the same thing with this film and what's going on in the industry when anytime there's this kind of outrage. And anytime, you have the media jumping on board saying, oh, well, we should, even the fact that it's a news story, it's like, when are we going to stop pointing the finger at things that literally are just something that you could view? And like you said, any sane person would say, okay, yeah, I know not to do this.
Yeah.
And I know that this is not what normal people do.
I run over a lot of hookers in Grand Theft Auto 5, but I haven't hit one in real life yet.
yeah.
Is that a goal?
And I don't ever feel the need to.
Right.
So I don't
know.
understand.
If I saw a hooker, I might somewhat get the urge
To
to
run
be
her
like,
over?
no, I shouldn't do that. But
like to hit that or to hit that?
I would look at her and be like, man, if I was in Grand Theft Auto 5 right now,
I would run you
I
over.
would run you over.
But since I'm in reality and
I'm not
I have a
going to.
brain
Yeah.
and all of my brain cells,
Again,
I'm not going to
exactly.
do that.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to, come on, guys, let's think about this for real. I mean, and that what I always loved was my sister even made the joke with my parents growing up when she was like, our parents wouldn't let us watch rated R movies.
Yeah.
Fine, so be it. But then they let her read Stephen King.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you want to talk about rated R content?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
way worse in some of those
exactly.
novels. And so the question is it's like, again, the mind can only conjure up so much. But just because your mind conjures it doesn't bring it into reality.
This kind of stuff drives me crazy because I'm sitting here thinking, you're talking about inciting violence, and you're talking about how this film, which we haven't seen yet,
Yes.
most people haven't seen it,
Yeah.
and it's just like you're already talking about how this movie's going to drive people insane and want to go kill people, but at the same time, we don't feel a damn thing about ripping a baby in pieces and take it out of someone's womb. And I'm like, where's
the line of which what life is really relevant here?
Exactly. And I'm not trying to get that argument started, but I'm just saying people's priorities. It's kind of like we don't want to advocate for those people being killed, but we want to advocate for this because this is something that can most definitely stir up headlines, and this is something that can most definitely
even that point alone right there, just talking about, it's like, here the argument is that it's like, oh, this movie stirs up controversy and could lead to more mass shootings. And I'm like, you don't think talking about the idea that it's going to lead to more mass shootings is going to create a headline?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, who the hell doesn't want to go down in flames when they're a pissed off, moody teenager, or heaven forbid, a mentally ill patient, whatever age you are, and they want to go out and take a couple people with them. Yeah. Hell, that's been the trend for the last few years.
Well, I mean, that's the thing.
Forget about mass shootings. It's like, I'm going to kill a couple people and either get caught and claim mental illness, or I'm going to shoot myself.
Yeah.
It's like, anytime we're willing to throw a headline up on there and talk about the next this is
famous.
now
But the worst part
deadliest
is,
mass shooting.
You throw a headline up there, it gives people a scapegoat to say, well, I saw that, because now it's like someone who might be contemplating killing people now have a reason to say, okay, if I do this, I could blame the movie because the media is already telling me that could be a cause. So that just gives me a reason to go out and kill people and say,
again,
well, it's not my fault. The movie drove me to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, again, it's defeating the real purpose of actually talking about what the issue is, which is mental illness.
Well, that would be
and
productive, and we can't be productive in society or government.
Well, of
if
course.
you solve a problem, then there's nothing left to make money off of.
Boom, there it is. That's the mic
yeah,
drop right
that's
there.
That's true.
That
Very
is
true.
absolutely what it is, which is precisely why I completely agree with the director. Outrage is a commodity these
Exactly.
days. Absolutely.
I think
100%.
we've beat that dead horse a little bit.
Yeah, let's move
whoa.
on.
Don't talk about beating horses or someone might go do it.
The horse is already dead, man.
That's true.
All right,
speaking
on.
of what's not dead but has definitely taken a hit.
It may be
another
happening.
good segue.
Here's what's sad though is this is not something we've called. We have been.
Well, I don't think they're dead yet.
No, of
You're-
course
I mean,
not.
and
Movie
they're-
Pass wasn't dead a year ago either.
Well, I don't
I
see
mean-
Netflix bowing out like a chump the way Movie Pass did.
But the thing is we've been tooting their horn for quite a while, saying, look, regardless of Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus, regardless of Disney Plus, we've been sitting here.
I don't find Apple Plus a threat, but I do think Disney Plus could be a threat.
Well,
to Netflix.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But to me, it's any streaming
Yeah,
service.
yeah, absolutely.
Any streaming service that's going to take dollars out of Netflix's pocket. Because here's the thing: that's two streaming services that, if you buy them both, are cheaper than Netflix.
Yeah.
That alone, right there,
You can
could
get
be reason enough
Disney
to
Plus
get
with
people off.
Hulu and ESPN Plus bundled in cheaper
than
Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah.
That's
You
huge.
get
That's
three
three.
services. Yeah.
Yeah.
So were we wrong about Netflix, guys? 46% gain
Well, I mean,
lost.
Nothing's happened yet for us to be wrong. We've been talking about them on a downward climb for a
No,
while.
we've
now.
said they had debt problems, but we've been saying, oh, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine.
they
No,
still
we
might
did talk
be.
about. We talked about they're losing like 25% of their catalog to Disney
Yeah.
when they pull their stuff off of there, and we thought they would come up with enough of their own content, but
But I think that's the problem
yeah.
is they're spending so much on just
spending so
anything
much.
rather than focusing on, the few like you keep something like Stranger Things that's great and guaranteed. Dark Crystal's already proven a success.
You got The Witcher coming up.
The Witcher's coming
by the end of the
year.
year.
I don't care for Orange is the New Black, but it's still a success. You focus on those things and keep doing them well. But Netflix, they still do those things.
But there's a ton of crap on there.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's like they throw all this money at having
tell
all
you
this.
How
stuff.
often I'm seeing new things from like Netflix original.
Yeah.
Netflix film.
Oh yeah.
Netflix
I mean, they had an original called Another Life.
Yeah.
Which is like got the chick from Battlestar. I can't remember her name, but it's a terrible show. Huge budget show.
Yeah.
Space.
Everything they do is
futuristic.
huge budget.
Yeah, and
That's
it's
why they're-
absolutely terrible.
Well, and sometimes
Why
it's
they're surprised.
either a huge budget or sometimes they don't even produce it. They just buy it up.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like stuff like I watched the documentary on Bill Gates, the brain or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was like
Oh,
the
yeah.
inside the brain of Bill Gates. And but the thing was, it ended up not being about like Microsoft. It was about him wanting to fix the world's like hygiene issue.
Oh,
and,
Lord.
Which here's the thing, like it was kind of interesting, but I'm like, I don't want to watch 4 episodes of this.
Yeah.
Like how like everybody wants to watch Bill Gates because they want to know what it was like to run Microsoft.
It's like, how do you
Yeah.
become
It's
a
like, come on.
billionaire? Yeah.
Exactly.
How'd you steal that from Apple again?
Yeah.
But yeah, here lately, I have found myself watching more original content on Hulu and Amazon than I have Netflix.
Well,
Yeah.
and I've seen exactly. It's been you've had a very like what we used to pride Netflix on was the fact that they were so focused on having very good original content, well produced original content. But now it's like their focus has become so spread thin.
Yeah.
Like you're a mile wide and an inch deep. And what ends up happening is like Hulu, Amazon Prime. I've been seeing less originals, but more focus on every time one is coming out, they promote it like crazy.
And they're good.
But they're good,
Yeah.
and they're few and far between. You'll see them here and there, but you're not seeing a flood of like. I mean, I think there's almost like 2 or 3 new originals on Netflix every single week.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it's getting to the
crazy.
point where I'm like, I didn't even know you could keep up with the amount of content, the original content that was coming from Netflix.
Yep.
Let alone the fact that it's like you've got all these other streaming services, and eventually it's just like, their pockets are only so deep.
Yeah.
They're spending all this money either producing or buying up content, and now it's like they're not going to have the people who want to come and watch it. They're going to go to other places to see things they love, but also see the few originals that they make.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do we think that that's going to happen? Do we think Netflix is kind of on a downward spiral?
I think it really depends on how they handle things in the future. I mean, I don't think they're out yet, obviously.
No.
But I think if they would cut back, if they'd focus on developing the good original things they have that are huge successes that are going to guarantee them money, and quit just throwing money everywhere, because that's really what they do right now. They just throw money at everything and see what sticks. And it's
I can't tell you another thing that's bothering me about Netflix is a lot of the shows that they have that are marketed and they look kind of like a good show, and then you start watching them and they're foreign.
Yeah,
And that's really pissing me off. They're like
I know exactly
they're
what
dubbed
you're talking
over,
about.
and the
Yes.
acting, the dubbed over, the voiceover is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but there's a show about AI, like robots and stuff, and I think it's called like a better me or a better us or something like that.
Yeah.
And I started watching this show, and I was like, man, this is like, it sounds pretty good. I was actually on my laptop and kind of looking up every now and then and watching it, and I was like, man, the acting in this is freaking terrible.
Yeah.
And I look up for a second and notice that the guy's mouth moving, and it's like a Norwegian show.
I would
So
be.
he's speaking some other,
And see, I'd be okay with that if they were upfront and honest and they
Yeah,
advertised
right,
it
no,
as a
they
foreign
market
show.
it as this.
And if they offered it in
Yeah.
its like native language with subtitles, because
Yes.
a lot of times like I'm okay with watching something like that.
That
with
would be better
subtitles
than dubbed over.
than the dubbed over. Yeah,
Right.
it just
Yeah, but
No,
I mean,
they
you've got
do.
4 or 5 like huge budget shows that are like that, and I'm like, nobody's gonna watch
and
that.
again, exactly, and that's the other thing is it's like I understand them wanting to market to other foreign markets.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: if you can do that, fantastic. If it's a success,
yeah. But if you're
But if you're
46% down,
yeah, and this is what you're buying, and it's
Yeah.
like, come on, what
Yeah.
are you going to find success in here? And like again, let's narrow the focus down back to what you all did originally, and go after those foreign markets, but you don't have to buy 5 movies or
Yeah.
series
Yeah.
that cover that demographic and say, oh yeah, we're set.
There's very few series on Netflix that are worth watching.
Yeah.
Like you can start them and you'll be okay, I'll give it 2 more. I always give every show 3 episodes,
Mm.
and then I'm in or out. So it's just like I'll give them a couple of them the benefit of the doubt. The first show's the pilot or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll watch the other two, and then I'm just like, man, this is stupid. This sucks. And it's just like there's so many. 80% of their original crap is like that.
Yeah.
And then the other 20 is the good stuff.
Yes.
And I mean, at this point, they can't lower their prices to compete. They're not going to be able to do that because if they're paying for all of this content to be made, they can't afford to lower the price.
No.
So honestly, the only thing they can do is either change their strategy or raise the price again.
Or I'd say just look, it's like, look, if it's not being popular, just like with what was it, the Santa Clarita Diet, and there were a few other shows that get canceled.
See, that I thought that was
I
a
know,
good show.
I know you liked it.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, to me, it's in those instances where I'm like, okay,
If the numbers aren't there, then ditch it.
right.
Yeah.
And honestly, but nobody's gonna miss it because the numbers aren't there. So just get rid of it.
Yeah.
But
Keep
there's
your
other-
price
there's
tag the
other
same
stuff.
and just put
Yeah.
the money back
Yeah.
where it needs to go, which is in the good shows.
But they're in such
that
a
you
hole
see.
now. There are some stuff that they're canceling, not because the money's not there, but because they cost too much to make. There's stuff that Netflix have openly admitted. It's like, well, it wasn't that we weren't getting viewers on it.
Yeah.
It was just too expensive, and we couldn't keep doing it. So it's like, well, then don't do that. It's like, don't make something great that you can't afford to
Yes.
make. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, no, and that's
That's what's worrying me about. Like, I'm really looking forward to the Witcher show.
yes.
And I mean, because they're saying it's like the next Game of Thrones, and I'm like, no, it's not. But still, it's probably going to be pretty good if they do it right. If they stick to the books and stuff, it's probably going to be pretty legit. But it's like, crap. Now we're going to get one season of it, and then they're going to go under, and I'm not going to finish the freaking Witcher.
I think
It's
Netflix
just
has a little bit longer than that.
I know what
and
you're
who
saying,
knows?
but
Maybe The Witcher will be their saving grace.
I don't know.
Well, but again, it's funny that you bring up that where it's comparing it to the Game of Thrones, but it's like HBO does this too. HBO has original content,
Yeah.
but it's not all they have. They're primarily their content is based off like you being able to watch the latest releases.
Yeah.
And it's like they know that their original content is king, and it's like they take the time to produce it and do it well that it becomes something that's worth the subscription.
Right.
And I think Netflix started out that way, and I think they got to the point now where they've got way too many mouths they're trying to feed from way too many different demographics, way too many different tastes, and it's like stop. It's like fine, you don't have to feed everybody at once. Feed a few here, and then say, okay, well now we want to go this route, and maybe think about this demographic or this type of storytelling that we want to do that we've not touched on in a while. Then take that route.
Yeah.
You don't have to have it all at once. And I think that's been their problem of trying to think that they've got to have all of this to compete with a non-competitor. And it's like, well, now you do have competitors entering the game, and you're in a ton of debt, and you have basically no reason for people to stick around and pay for your subscription when half the crap that you have, nobody
Is
likes.
it worth it?
Yeah.
And like Sean was like, I don't even worry about them going under and not seeing something finish. I worry about seeing something finish just in general because they've canceled so much stuff now because they're having so much issues that it's like you get hooked on a show and
it goes under.
There's
Even if it's
I
good.
want to feel like 80% of their original content gets canceled before it has I feel like the only thing that so far is set up to actually have an original ending is Stranger Things, because they've confirmed we'll have this many seasons
and it's been
done.
that popular.
And it's like House of Cards got an end, but because of the Kevin Spacey thing,
controversy,
it wasn't-
yeah.
That wasn't
Say-
Netflix's fault.
yeah, that
Right.
wasn't that
And
wasn't,
that was a
but it's
great
like
show.
that was just that was a hit they had to take, unfortunately. But it doesn't help when that was a great show and so many of their other things got canceled that when you have a show that gets a chance to end, it's marred by that.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think Netflix throwing some of its movies into theaters and gaining some capital that way that wouldn't pull them?
I don't think so,
pull 'em
because
out?
theaters are already saying that they're not on Netflix. They're pissed at Netflix because they've already had this controversy from the last few years of trying to just do it for being Oscar contenders.
Yeah.
And they're not in it to make the theaters money. They're in it to give them more exposure.
Yeah. See,
So the
Amazon
theaters
is
don't
doing
want to
it, though.
support it.
Amazon's got 2 or 3 movies
Yeah.
that are Amazon-produced movies in theaters. In
But I
fact,
think-
what was the one that we just saw the trailer for that looked really freaking
Honey
good?
Boy.
Honey Boy, yeah,
Yes.
the new Shia LaBeouf
LaBeouf
movie.
movie,
Well,
yeah.
Manchester
Right.
by the Sea, it was released in theaters.
And it was a Best Picture
for a
run.
full run,
Yeah, for a full run.
So I don't understand why Netflix can't do that and make a couple $1 million in the
But
box
it seems
office.
because it seems like what they do is they sour the milk and they end up basically getting into bed with people that they shouldn't, in terms of like these production deals.
Yeah.
And they want to recoup all the benefit of new subscribers and also saying, hey, we've got this exclusive content you can't get anywhere else. But we also want the big awards too, to be like, see, you could see Oscar-winning films on Netflix. And it's like, that was the whole deal with Roma. And it's like, the reason it got blacklisted was mainly because of partnering with Netflix.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Not necessarily, but I think it's the way they do business that theaters are like, you're not here to help us, so we're not going to help you.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're not going to give us any benefit, you're just going to do a small little run in a theater just to get yourself awards, ceremony, an entry into that. It's like, screw you. We don't want to help you.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've been playing their cards right in that type of arena. Whereas Amazon, I think, has just been kind of quiet about it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think Netflix has got a long way to fall, obviously.
Oh, yeah, but still, it's not. This is kind
it's
of
not looking good.
Well, that's the thing. Netflix started out with DVDs, and they survived. Nobody watches DVDs anymore.
Well,
Nobody watches discs.
That's because of Netflix.
They survived, and
they found a way to transfer.
That's what I'm saying. And I
I
think maybe hopefully they've got something else up their sleeve. Now the competition is here. In the same, they had Blockbuster started doing the mail DVD things that gave them competition, so they got out and started streaming it.
Yep.
Now that they've got competition with this, they're going to get out and start something else.
We hope.
Implanting it in our brains while we sleep.
And
You wake up remembering a movie you never
Holy
even really saw.
That
would be
Inception, man. That's like really
flicks.
Inception. Brain
flicks.
Oh my!
Watch
All
a
right,
movie
let's
while you
move on.
sleep.
I think it's time to move on.
I think it is. I think it's time to move on to our relationship segment.
Let me tell you about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the moon up above and a thing called love.
Oh, don't y'all love the relationship open? So sweet.
Huh.
We got a doozy, guys.
I know it says T question mark again. What's that mean?
Well,
It means, would you like some tea?
yeah. Tea?
Tea?
Tea time?
Tea time?
Drop of sugar. You would like some tea? Harry, get the tea.
Oh God.
y'all love it when I do.
Harry.
Hogwarts needs the tea. Earl Grey.
Harry's
told
coming
you
back.
to-
All we
Shut up.
drink.
I told you quit playing with my wand, Harry.
Stop playing with your Quidditch.
Quidditch.
Stop playing with your Quidditch and
Like
your wand.
Professor Snape, Harry's touching my wand again.
Oh my God.
He's under the invisible cloak. I'm telling you. He's trying to hide.
Oh man.
This is what our relationship.
Your accent is terrible.
It's awful. That's why I do it.
That's why it's so funny.
And that's why I do it. I mean, it's great.
Yes.
Go practice your spells, Harry. Abracadabra.
Gonna touch your golden snitch. All right, let's go.
All right.
What are we talking about?
This week, well, we've
Man.
covered the topic of first kisses. Okay.
First kisses.
That was our last. I think that was our last
think
relationship
so.
segment.
Yeah.
So this time we thought about.
Yeah. Sorry.
You got a Beatles kick there.
you
I
did.
mean,
He said
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
I had to- I
Yeah.
had to-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
now I'm thinking about Letterkenny. Oh yeah.
oh no, we can't bring that up.
Can't do that one. Yeah, can't do that on the show.
Oh,
It's
man.
a good show. Okay.
So check out
Rela-
Letterkenny.
Relationship segment.
Yes. All right, go ahead.
All right, our relationship segment this week. The times have been a changing for a while. So the question is
Now I'm thinking Bob Dylan.
gosh.
That's how my brain works.
Well, here's the thing.
Brain flicks.
How do you date in 2019?
I wouldn't know.
See, and I was
You
going
don't
to
take
say
your wife out on dates?
Yeah, you
Well,
should
yeah,
never
take
stop
her out
dating.
on dates, but I'm not dating.
Well, that's what we
That's
mean.
not
It's
what
like-
you're talking
Oh,
about.
no. That's what we're talking about.
yeah.
Exactly.
Are you
All
sure?
sorts, yes.
How do you
Oh,
go on
okay.
date? Because like we talked about next door earlier, we was talking about
Yeah.
used to people would go to the drive-in theater, a diner, or someplace like
Bowling,
or like
Yeah.
the old like Sonic used to be, where you would pull up and they would come
Yeah.
out on roller skates.
Oh, yeah.
little dine-ins.
Yeah, and those, and I mean stuff like that is kind of lost nowadays. I mean,
Yeah.
there's drive-ins here or there, but they're dying. I mean, there's still diners, but people prefer big fancy restaurants. No one goes to a
Order a
greasy spoon
pizza.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
And give me
I
some
mean, and-
Chinese.
yeah, people go to the
Chinese.
people go to the theater still, but
Yeah.
it is. It's a lot different. I think there's something kind of lost in the way we date nowadays compared to. And I think a lot of it has to do with the advancement of technology, which we've gone into many times.
It's gone from dinner and a movie to just Netflix and chill.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom, exactly.
You would go out, eat, have conversation, go see a movie.
That's what we do. Is usually it's dinner and a movie.
Dinner and a movie.
Like, we don't
And there's nothing
bowl.
wrong
We
with
don't
that.
go to bars.
Do y'all remember that
You know,
show
so
on
it's
TBS,
Dinner and a Movie? Yes, I
where
do.
they would do like the dinner segment
And
in
they would-
between in the commercial.
Yeah,
And they
breaks
would
or
have little
whatever.
factoids about
Yeah,
the movie.
about the movie. Yeah,
Yeah, I loved it.
I thought that was
Yeah.
kind of cool.
It was.
You know, it was a little,
We should do
hokey,
that.
and
It was.
we could
could do
make a
that.
YouTube segment, bring it back.
Dinner and a movie.
Dinner and a podcast.
Dinner and a podcast.
A bite and some facts. I don't know.
A bait
A
and
bite.
some,
A bite.
and
You can
some
have a bite.
facts.
A bite to eat. You
It's
get a
got,
bite
like-
to eat and
Oh,
some
man.
tidbits.
a nibble and tidbits.
Yep. Nibble and tidbits.
Oh my god! All right, so
apart from
dating in 2019.
Yeah.
what do the kids do these days? Because I don't know. I haven't been on a date in forever.
Oh, we're
I have
sad
no clue.
people. Exactly.
It's
Uh-oh.
sad.
You
That's
sure about that?
what are you trying to say, Sean?
You've been kind of distant. That usually only happens when there's a woman
I
involved.
don't know what you're talking about.
Or women.
I'm definitely not
Have
talking
you been
about
getting
women.
some tidbits?
Some beef tips.
Oh man.
Beef tips.
I don't know where we're
That's
going
a
here.
big woman there.
No, the question is though, is if you are going out on a date, what would be, I guess, a topic of choice to say, yeah, let's go there. And I mean, a movie is typical, but it's like
We're very typical.
true. But the thing is
It
I would
doesn't have to be anything out there or grandiose, but
no,
I
but it
mean,
could mix it up. So what would be like a fun date idea, that you wouldn't have before? Like
just
before, it was
anything
those
you'd
things.
enjoy to do.
It does kind of suck though. I mean, now that I'm really thinking about it, you've got me thinking about the driving and stuff. I'm like, when me and my wife were first dating, it was like the River Falls Mall was still in existence, and we would
Yes.
go there and play putt-putt and play games.
Yes.
There you
Get
go.
a big old
Yes,
slice of
putt-putt.
Sabaro's pizza, and then go shop. Look at the shops and stuff in the.
I tell you, the
on the first
80s and the
floor.
90s was where it was at.
Like,
everything
there's-
down there just
That stuff's all gone. It's like, where can you go play putt-putt anymore?
I mean, a date now
cart
is like
country.
a
yeah,
couple
you go
of
to Cart
swipes
Country
right
with
to
all
play-
the rednecks.
to
Yeah.
play putt-putt.
Hey,
Go play
Cart Country
putt-putt
is fun.
on the
Hey.
AstroTurf that's all torn up and
I would-
everything. You can't play
Well,
a real
and that's
game
the
of
thing.
putt-putt like
I
that.
was gonna say, okay, to me that really is.
It's true.
It's true.
You can't go anywhere where the AstroTurf isn't all torn
They
up.
don't take. Yeah, they don't have money to take care of it
Well,
no
it's like
more.
no,
Not
the-
even
the
AstroTurf.
windmill
it's
is
boat,
like missing
boat
one of the-
carpet is what it is. It's like crap you put on your boat.
It is.
It's not even real stuff anymore.
They don't have the money to up because people don't
No.
go anymore. And
Hell
it's
no,
sad.
the little windmill's not even turning.
That's what I'm saying. The
Like,
windmill's like broken.
it's
It's only
broke.
got one.
yeah, and it's
You-
covered. It's blocking the hole. You can't. It's like there's no
can't
way
even
you can
win.
get that hole in one at the end.
Oh.
I mean, I agree. It's like what
We used to go to the batting cages and
Yeah.
stuff. Like,
well,
I
it's
mean, we
like
used to do
okay,
all
in
that
the
stuff.
same way, nobody takes pride in going out on a healthy, very innocent date like that anymore.
Yeah.
It's the same way that a lot of those places almost seem to be let go.
Yeah.
It's like
That's
nobody
what I'm
takes
saying.
care and
yeah,
consideration.
They're not there. I
anymore.
would still do that stuff if it was there. But it's like, I mean, for
But
one,
they're not
where
there
we
'cause
live,
people stop doing
I
it.
know, but I'm
Exactly.
just like, I would still do that.
I
don't
would.
know. I don't know why we
I mean,
stopped.
I
but
love to bowl.
kids
I would
probably.
I would go
but-
bowling, putting. I would do
But
that.
see, it's
batting
like,
cages.
why do you need to go bowling when you got Wii bowling at home?
But it's not the same, man.
the batting cage, you got Wii baseball
Yeah.
or whatever.
Exactly.
Technology's killing everything.
I know.
But that's the point. Is it's like, so what can you do? I mean, you almost have to think
Yeah.
extravagantly.
I mean, the next thing
You
you know,
almost
it's gonna be
have
like,
to.
you want to go on a date tonight? Sure. And then we're gonna put our VR headsets on.
It's
and
the
let's
same
go in the
way.
living
date.
room. And it's like, here we go.
it'll
Let's
be
hold
like that.
hands while we go to the waterfall.
Yeah.
and then we
Like,
take
oh,
our.
isn't this beautiful?
But that's a good
Hold
point.
on, let me
Yeah.
turn on the fan so it feels like I'm
Feels
misting.
like- yeah.
You mentioned the waterfall, but yeah,
Yes.
there's something. I mean, I love going on hikes with my friends just as it is. I would love
Yeah.
to, if I was in a relationship, take someone on a hike through like somewhere that's really pretty,
Yeah.
or just going to like different fairs. Like, I mean, I know the Kentucky State Fair or Homecoming Harvest, which is coming up. Those are things I just enjoy to
and
do in general.
you still have
and they
like.
can be romantic if you take somebody,
Well, I
I
was
mean,
saying here
yeah.
locally, we've got a ton. Like Bourbon and Beyond was recently.
Yes,
Urban Bourbon.
Louder
Fest.
Than
Yeah,
Life
Louder-
is
yeah,
about
this
to pop
weekend.
up. Yeah.
this weekend.
I
It's
mean,
like,
a concert is. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many things you can do and that you can still do, but there is a lot I think that's changed too from what
Yeah.
people used to do.
I was gonna say, I think it's just become a little bit more casual, but at the same time, it's like when you do find those events, I mean, that's the weird thing about movies too. Is it's like I know
go
people
to a
who
haunted house. That would be a great date.
Yeah.
actually it would be.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I
we
love
used to do that too.
Yeah.
But here's my thing, and I'm the only one here with children, so I'll go ahead and just throw this one out there.
They kill
By
the
the time
mood.
I'm telling you, then that's not that they kill the mood. It's that by the time you can find someone to watch your kids long enough for you to go on a date, you're so tired
You're exhausted.
that you don't want to go on a hike and you don't want to go
I
to all
get
these
it.
grandiose places. You're just like, what do you want to do? Let's just go get something to eat and then go see a movie and then fall asleep. Like
And
that's
it's like that's beautiful.
like that. Oh yeah.
Let's go play.
But I mean, that's
Let's
that
go
is
play with the
realistically,
tidbits.
that's what it's like with kids, and it's by the
No,
time you get that date night, you are so wore out
A date night
you
is a
don't-
beautiful night to stay at home and not hear children.
and not hear children.
Yes.
Exactly. That's
There's
my
nothing
idea
wrong
of
with
a
that.
date
Yeah.
night.
I mean, as
So-
long as you're doing it with the person you love, there's really no wrong thing to
There
go
it
to.
is.
So
That's the key
That
right
is.
there.
Okay.
He found the key.
that is.
The whole point is it doesn't really matter what you're doing as long as you're with the one you love.
Well, that's the point of Ad
I'm
Astra.
just saying-
Wow.
Oh, brought it
Back
full
to
circle.
it.
Bringing it full circle.
Love it. Oh, that was fantastic. No, I completely agree. I think at the end of the day, you can sit there and think of all these. I think it is beautiful if you do take the
The
time.
next date I
to
go
plan
on with
on.
my wife, we're going
To
putt
Neptune.
putt.
You're going putt putt.
We're not going to Neptune because there's nothing out there. We're going putt putt.
Putt-putt.
There
I don't
you
know
go.
where we're gonna go, but we're freaking going putt putt.
Well, and isn't it weird? It's like you got to go to some like
I
the
wanna go
last time I went
putt-putt
putt
now.
putt was in freaking Gatlinburg
Yeah,
because
we
they
did too,
had
because they haven't
hillbilly
done
golf,
it.
decent putt putt.
I think
Hillbilly golf.
I might be wrong, but honestly, the last time I can fully remember putt putting was when I went to Florida with Neil and his family. And
Man,
they
how
had
long
they had
ago
a
was
really
that?
nice.
All the good putt putts are in Florida.
yeah, they are.
They are.
They
I'm telling
are.
you,
It
Destin
was
and
great.
Pensacola and Panama
truth be
City.
told,
I mean,
everything good
It
is
was when
in
the last
Florida.
Harry
I
Potter
mean-
book came out. Was that our senior? Like I don't.
That was like
man.
senior
That was
year
our
in
big
high
Yeah, I
church
school.
think it was
group
like our
that went.
senior year in
A
high
big
school.
church group went, didn't they? Or did
No,
you
this
just
was
go?
just I went with Neil and Rick and Marion, and a family friend of theirs came separately for like half the week.
Really?
Someone they knew, but yeah,
Oh, okay.
I don't
But-
know how
but
this
I-
wound up.
That's to say,
happening,
there's
but
not many trips that they took that
yeah,
time that I didn't go on.
Yeah.
so that's why I don't remember.
it
that,
was
though.
just well, there wasn't. But yeah,
I would have
us.
remembered seeing you with your shirt off.
Yeah,
I would have
you
remembered
would've
that, so
remembered.
I didn't go.
Trust me, it's a beautiful sight.
Glorious.
I
saying.
just because like I said, I remember like the night we were set to leave was when the book came out, and me and Neil went
'Cause
to
you all
Walmart
read it.
and we read it the
whole
whole way
way
there,
down, yep.
and like the first couple hours we were there. Like
See?
that's
Well, you could just
great.
sit there with your loved one and read.
yeah. Me and Neil sat there and read
You know?
together, and it was the most romantic evening. Or
I'm saying.
day.
Yeah.
Think about it.
or-
Think about it. What if you're sitting there on the living room floor,
Megan will never have
leaning
that
up
with him.
against
Wow.
she wants it now. She's thinking about it. They could just curl up on the floor, backs against the couch,
reading Harry Potter.
the sunlight just streaming in the window. I'm telling you, it's
I
romantic.
think what would be
Wow.
most
It's
romantic,
romantic.
is if you read Harry Potter in that accent to them.
Hello, Harry.
Yeah. Everybody sounds
We've
the
got
same.
to get Professor
like-
Snape.
like,
He's being naughty.
put your name in the Goblet of Fire, Harry?
Oh no, the Order of the Phoenix is after the Half-Blood Prince.
Oh my.
Everybody who loves Harry Potter hates us now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Should we just do a reading of that? What was the guy who does it on YouTube? The reading of Harry Potter?
No,
He
does-
narrates the
he narrates
movies.
like the movies or whatever.
Oh, better.
It's hilarious.
Better than the movie.
oh
it
wow.
really
Oh, it is.
I'll
it
check
is
that out.
The greatest. I gotta find it.
But
it
I
is,
will
it's
say,
great.
I think it's always fantastic and great to go and elaborate and try to figure out, how you can collaborate with your spouse or
it's
your
always
loved one.
good to be with the ones
Yeah.
you love.
Yes, and try to figure out new and interesting ways
Yep.
to date. But also, obviously the whole idea is that as long as you enjoy the company of the other person, it doesn't matter where you are.
Right.
So I think, as long as you're not sitting there trying to FaceTime them on your phone and they're in the same room,
Yeah.
then it's like, all right, come on, put the phone down, share time with one another, and just be with one another. I think that's a perfect date. Doesn't matter. That hadn't changed for centuries. That's
Wow.
always been the case.
That was great.
That was beautiful.
This was this was just a very packed and great episode.
I think so.
Mhm.
I
You
think
know
it
what would
was-
make it better is if we could hear people's thoughts and opinions on it.
I think there is a way to do that.
Can we?
I think so. Do you know how?
Date
I-
night.
Date night. We're going on dates with all of our fans.
Absolutely. If they email us.
You know, we will take you out on a date if you email us.
And where can they email us, Keith?
Well, is it right there?
It's right there.
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
That's it.
That's amazing.
Sean, would you go on a date with one of our listeners?
I would.
Well,
I'm
he's
going
a
to be honest with you.
he's
I'd
a
like
married
to go on
man,
I want to go on a date
so-
with Neil because he goes for walks. They get ice cream. They
Aw.
walk around the park or whatever. Hikes, putt-putt, batting cages. Haven't done that in a while, though. Watch baseball and football games.
I love it.
That's
yeah.
beautiful.
They go to the bar or just to be home. Ballet,
Kayaking.
cooking classes, kayaking,
That sounds
and
awesome.
TV shopping.
We need
I
Neil
say
on this.
wait
He's-
until you have a child. And all of those things will no
Go
longer
away.
exist.
Well,
I love-
it's not that they won't exist. It's like you said, your value of
by
those
the
things
time
will
you
change.
get to do one of those things, you'll be
Your perception of what is fun and
Yeah.
what is date like is going to
Mhm.
change
Yep.
when you have a kid.
Yeah.
But I will say this:
It's a good thing.
whether you have a
but they do
kid,
change your life.
but
for the
whether
better.
you
Once
have
you
a
have
kid,
kids, you're just going to stay home and put your hands in each other's pockets.
That's true.
We
Oh.
witnessed it firsthand when we were staying with them in Boston.
That's
that one
true.
Year. It's true.
they were getting
They were-
frisky while
they
we
were
were
putting-
in.
They were putting their
apartment.
hands in each other's pockets, and we're like, "Whoa, guys, whoa."
Come on now, stop it.
We're kind of also
Who did this?
Where's yeah, Neil.
Neil and Megan.
Neil.
We're also kind of like skewing
Was he
the
looking
story
for
a little
toothpick or
bit.
something? What?
No, we're skewing the story to make it sound worse than it was, but I just want to leave it sounding that way.
No,
Great.
it was-
Let's
it
stop
was
it right
pretty
now.
bad. All I'm saying is,
Wrap it up.
yes, keep doing those things, Neil. Megan will love you, and that's the thing. Keep it fresh. Always. Well, that was one piece of advice I heard
Keep it
at a
fresh.
wedding was never stop dating your spouse.
Oh,
And I like that.
Yeah,
that was a good piece of
that
advice.
was a good piece
Yeah,
of advice.
That's a good piece of advice. So, never stop emailing us here at the Red Moon Podcast. RMPodcast at Red Moon Productions.
Podcast at RMPodcast.
.com. All right, guys.
You got to throw the arms in there. You,
I don't know if I can even do that.
you sound like you're from London.
I can't do it.
How Paul Rudd sounded in.
All right,
Sarah
guys.
Oh yeah.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host.
Sean Sebastian.
And
Keith Cheatham.
until next time,
We'll see you at the movies.
we got it!
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.